Hello, this is Margaret from dataminingdna.com. This is one of a series of videos that answers questions which keep cropping up on social media and forums. This particular question that crops up is, how do I know if my ancestry tree is public? Okay, now I'm within this particular tree and I want to check the privacy settings. To get at the privacy settings, I go to the drop-down menu of the tree on the top left here, and I go then to the tree settings. The tree settings takes me to this particular page, and I'm on the first tab, which is the basic tree info. There is a lot of details here, but this isn't what we want. We need to click on the second tab here, which is the privacy settings. And this is where we see whether our tree is public or private. So in the top section here, you can see the public tree it's grey. It's not selected. If I run my eye down to the next section, I can see that the private tree is highlighted in green. This is a private tree. It's not a public tree. So I'm going to toggle over to one of my other trees. So I'm just going to open this different tree. So this is a totally different tree. I'm going to go and look at the privacy settings. So once again, up at the top left here, I look at the drop-down menu. I go to tree settings. I'm on the tree info tab, which isn't what I want. I click on the privacy settings tab. And now here, I'm looking at this top section, and I can see that highlighted in green, the public tree is set. This is a public tree. And down below, the private tree is in grey, it's deselected. Now, to toggle between the two, this is a public tree. If I wanted to make it private, I would click on this option button here. And now private tree is highlighted in green, and the public tree option has become deselected. If you're toggling between the two, if you suddenly realize that your public tree is public and you actually want it to be private, and then you set it to private here, how long does that take to come into effect? Well, the effect is immediate. From the time that you set this to private and you click on Save Changes, that was off the screen, I just scroll down a little bit and there is Save Changes. The moment you save changes, the tree, as it says here, will instantly become public or private. I mention this simply because there's another option on this page, which is to take the tree out of the search index, to mean that it can't be found in searches. Clicking that button here, it takes some time, some weeks to take effect, but toggling between having a public tree or making that tree private, that is immediate. I want this tree to remain public, so I'm leaving it at public. I didn't make any changes, so I don't need to hit Save Changes here. So that was one way of getting at the tree settings page. Now, suppose you've been making a number of trees to investigate various branches, and they're experimental, they're research. You may want to check 5 or 6 trees to see whether they are public or private, and it's a few extra clicks to go into each individual tree, go to the menu, click on the tree settings, etc. for each tree. There is a faster way to check multiple trees in one go. So in the trees top menu here, just wait for the items to populate. It lists a few of my trees. Then right down at the bottom is Create and Manage Trees. I go to that page. This is a tree management page, so you can see here it's a list of all my trees. The ones that are research, I'm not ready to go public with yet. I'm not entirely sure that the information is correct. I tend to be investigating the family trees or building the family trees for friends or cousins, and I'm still not sure that I have all the verification done, so I don't want them to be public because I don't want to lead other people astray in their research. If I click on a particular tree here on the left, I go into that particular tree page. I then have to go to the drop-down menu, find the tree settings, and go to the privacy settings tab. I'm going to take away a click for you. Go over here to the right, and this final column is Manage Tree. This column over here this Manage Tree button actually takes you straight into the tree settings page. So just click on Manage Tree. You go straight to the tree settings. You're still on the tree info page. Click on the privacy settings, and you can see here that I did do as I intended. I set this tree to private. I also didn't want it to be found by search, so I kept it out of the search index. And again, as I was researching this tree, if I decide that I've done all my verification, I'm ready for it to be public, I would simply click public tree here. That untoggles the private tree, sets the public tree on, and then I would click on Save Changes, and that would become immediately public. Now, it will take some time. By clicking on public tree, it also unchecked the option where I was keeping the tree out of the search index. It becomes public immediately when I hit on Save Changes, but it will take some weeks for the information in your tree to be available through public search. So if you're fairly new to Ancestry and you created one or more trees, you may have spotted in social media forums that there's quite a debate at times between the benefits of having a public or private tree. And indeed, looking at those debates, you may have suddenly thought, oh, is my tree public or private? And don't be too hard on yourself if you're not sure, because it is really easy not to notice that you created a public tree. Let's just go through the motions of creating a very quick tree. I'm going to go back to the Trees menu. I'm going to click on Create and Manage Trees. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom here, and you see this option right down at the bottom left, Create a New Tree. So I'm going to create a little experimental tree, adding the home person. It's going to be John Smith. He's male, living. I'm going to click just continue here. I'm going to add a father for John, who is also called John. I'm deceased. And now I'm saving this second entry. So I've entered a home person. I've now entered one parent. Watch what happens when I click Save on this second person. Ancestry is saying, okay, now let's create your tree. It's giving you the Save dialog box. It's naming your tree. It's offering you a tree, which you can change this name, of course. Now, if you're in a hurry and you click Save Tree here without reading the fine print, you will have created a public tree. Notice this pre-selected option is set to true. What does it say? Allow others to view this tree. People marked living or hidden. You also have this little drop-down box, which actually suddenly gives you a lot of information about public trees and their benefits. So it's easy enough not to notice. If you do want to create a private tree, make sure you deselect the checkbox before you click on Save Tree. I've put a link in the description below to our blog article on the same topic. It does have a few more sections and background information if you want to go take a read. One of the things we go into is a bit more on searchable and unsearchable trees, and we have a link here to another article which actually explains unsearchable trees in more detail. And if you take a look at our general blog page, you see up at the top is a link to a growing in-depth series of articles on Ancestry that really takes you from the beginning of starting your essential tree right through topics of hints, of searches, of messaging your DNA matches. So every article has all the current chapters. So there's 12 chapters at the moment. There's about one chapter being added every week. You read through and you can scroll right down to the bottom. At the bottom of every article, we have a subscription will notify you of when we push out new chapters. So it tends to be once a week. It tends to be on a Thursday or Friday to get you ready for some weekend reading. But if you sign up to our email list, we'll send you a notification that the latest chapter has been dropped onto the blog.